Hi, this is Jake James Vogel, the editor of XGen Investor. Today we are going to go on a walk through the future. We've got a ton of reports from various organizations about what they see in emerging technologies. And I mean, this is all guesswork. But I uploaded 27 sources into Notebook LM. Our hosts are going to take a walk in the future and discuss what it looks like. I thought that might be interesting for me, and maybe it's interesting for you too. The conversation is kind of cut off at the end, so apologies. And again, this is not investment advice. This is nothing but an exploration into future technologies and what the future might look like in a city that's technologically advanced in 2050. So enjoy it and take care.
Okay, so let's step into this. Imagine we're together right here, but it's 2050. Take a breath. The air has this clean, almost electric feel to it, doesn't it?
It really does.
And listen, the sounds of the city are, well, they're just different.
Yeah.
Not that constant roar of engines we're so used to.
hmm Interestingly, our backdrop for this experience, it's kind of a collection of really forward-thinking material you shared.
Right.
We've got pieces looking at, the very nature of rapid change, some explorations into the future of AI,
Mm-hmm.
where sustainable business is heading, and some pretty detailed analysis on how sectors like food and energy are being, well, fundamentally transformed.
Exactly. So this isn't just us daydreaming about flying cars, though maybe we'll see some.
Tom, maybe.
We're walking through this 2050 cityscape, informed by the potential trajectories outlined in those sources.
Right.
We're noticing the subtle shifts and, well, the more dramatic changes that the material suggests are increasingly likely.
It really allows us to get a tangible sense of the potential pathways described in these reports.
Yeah.
Like not just abstract ideas, but how these changes might actually feel and look around us.
Right. So the first thing you can't help but notice is, well, the relative quiet on the street.
Yeah.
Where did all the cars go?
It feels like that idea of transportation as a service, or TaaS.
Sauce. Yeah.
It really comes to life here. It feels like almost everyone is using these autonomous electric vehicles.
On demand. Right. Personal car ownership seems almost kind of quaint.
It does.
Hmm.
And it's important to consider the ripple effects of this shift. With TaaS, that constant
Okay.
stop-and-go traffic we remember,
Gone.
basically, yeah, it simply isn't a factor. The efficiency is pretty remarkable.
And look up there. Are those, yeah. See those sleek things gliding silently overhead?
Okay.
The sources talked about the potential for aerial systems, almost like flying taxis.
Right. With battery tech having come so far and electric drivetrains being the norm,
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense these are part of the transportation mix now.
Zipping silently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This shift in transportation isn't just about convenience either. It fundamentally alters how we think about, like, urban sprawl and accessing different parts of the city. Imagine the impact on commute times and maybe entirely new economic hubs popping up because of it.
Which makes you wonder, what's happened to all that space that used to be roads and parking lots?
Yeah, good question.
The material we looked at definitely predicted a reduced need for that kind of infrastructure.
For sure.
And look around, it seems like those spaces have been repurposed. More green areas, little pocket parks. Look, integrated right into the buildings. And are those vertical farms growing food right here in the city?
Precisely. Bringing food production closer to where it's consumed.
Wow.
And notice the energy powering all of this. The reports on the future of energy were quite definitive about the rise of solar, wind, and batteries, SW.
SWB, right.
They even projected near zero marginal cost electricity.
Which sounds almost unbelievable, but
Well, look how solar panels are integrated into almost every building surface. It's like they're part of the design itself.
yeah, you barely notice them unless you look.
And those smaller, almost artistic-looking wind turbines dotted around.
I see them.
It's a much more distributed energy system than we were used to, decentralized.
And it's that near zero cost electricity from SWB solar wind batteries that must make these indoor farms so efficient.
Absolutely. And potentially ubiquitous. It's not just about cleaner energy. It's about fundamentally changing how we produce and consume resources.
What's fascinating, too, is how nature seems woven back into the urban fabric, like properly woven in.
Yeah. How so?
Remember those discussions about 4D printed microhabitats enhancing urban gardens.
Vaguely, yeah.
Look at these thriving little ecosystems integrated into what would have been just, concrete planters before.
Interesting.
And are those small floating wetlands in the waterways down there?
Could be. Probably helping with water purification like the sources mentioned.
It's a real integration, isn't it? Moving beyond just planting a few trees to actively creating habitats within the city. And the buildings themselves, they look different too.
Lighter.
Yeah, later. The sources anticipated a move away from resource-intensive materials like concrete. These structures seem to be made from, well, almost organic-looking materials. Maybe some kind of bio-based stuff.
Could be. And consider the air we're breathing. It feels noticeably cleaner, doesn't it?
Definitely. Much less gritty than I remember city air being.
Right. The move to electric transport and these localized sustainable production methods likely contribute significantly to that. The reports really highlighted the environmental benefits of moving away from fossil fuels and industrial animal agriculture.
Oh, and did you notice that building over there?
Yeah.
It has a subtle green hue.
Huh. I recall some of the material mentioning algae-powered buildings as a sustainable approach.
Wow, really? Imagine a building literally photosynthesizing its own energy.
Crazy, right? It's a tangible representation of that shift towards a world increasingly built on photons, electrons, DNA, and molecules, as one of the reports put it.
Yeah, moving away from just extracting finite resources.
To actively creating what we need, using biology and energy in new ways.
Okay, all this walking is making me think about lunch. What do you reckon the food scene is like in 2050?
Good question.
The potential for localized food production was a major point in the material we reviewed. These vertical farms we're seeing everywhere must play a big role.
Definitely cuts down on food miles, just like the ReThinkX food report suggested.
Well, what are we eating?
Well, interestingly, the predicted revolution in food production through precision fermentation seems to be in full swing.
Precision fermentation, remind me.
Think of it like programming yeast or other microbes to produce specific molecules, everything from proteins for meat alternatives to flavorings.
Oh, right.
All without needing traditional farming. So as we walk past these eateries, maybe there are these subtle, almost novel aromas in the air.
Hinting at this era of food as software.
Exactly. That's the term they used.
Right. And look, there's a place advertising cultured cuts and molecular gastronomy.
There you go. Those must be some of the food as software production facilities the sources talked about.
And was that a menu offering? Wait, woolly mammoth steak.
Seriously.
Grown from cells, it says.
Okay, wow. The material did touch on the possibility of bringing back extinct species for sustainable consumption via precision biology. Didn't think I'd see it on the menu, though.
Me either.
And if you look towards what used to be the outskirts of the city, where the farms were.
Yeah. What do you see? Or rather, what don't you see?
Exactly. You don't see those vast fields of monoculture or large-scale animal farms. The disruption of animal agriculture was a key prediction, driven by the cost and efficiency advantages of these new production methods.
Makes sense. So the landscape itself has changed.
Fundamentally.
Now think about how we're interacting with the city on a personal level. Notice how people seem to have these almost invisible interfaces?
Yeah, like they're looking at something we can't see.
Right. Augmented reality overlays must be commonplace, providing information and enhancing their perception of everything around them in real time.
And it's important to consider the potential for, touchless haptic technology, too.
Haptics.
Yeah.
Like vibrations.
Sort of, but more advanced. The idea of interacting with the environment through mid-air sensations, creating tangible connections with data without physically touching anything.
Okay, that's a bit sci-fi.
Maybe, but it was in the source material as a possibility. A level of seamless integration we could only begin to imagine back in, our time.
And all of this is underpinned by that incredibly sophisticated data network.
Absolutely essential.
The sources emphasize how personal algorithms would manage so many aspects of our lives and interactions with different platforms.
Yeah, there's this feeling of seamless connectivity, personalized experiences almost woven into the fabric of the city itself.
Which raises an important point about regulation, doesn't it? Privacy. Ethics.
For sure. As we experience these advanced technologies in action, you kind of get a sense that robust data privacy and ethical AI guidelines must be firmly in place. Or at least you hope they are.
Yeah, I hope so.
The material we looked at suggested that increased regulation in these areas was a likely outcome, almost a necessity for this level of tech integration.
Finally, while we can't see it directly, these fundamental shifts in energy, food, and transportation, They must have had a massive impact on the economy and society.
Oh, undoubtedly.
The sources talked about the creation of entirely new job sectors, building and maintaining the SWB infrastructure, for example.
Right, huge projects there.
And the phasing out of others, like traditional livestock farming or maybe even trucking as we knew it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big disruptions. The pace of life feels maybe different, perhaps more focused on localized production and service industries.
Could be.
And if we connect this to the advancements in multi-omic sequencing and nanomedicine mentioned in some of the reports.
Personalized medicine stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could almost sense a greater emphasis on well-being and preventative health. Maybe the design of public spaces or the services offered subtly reflect this shift towards personalized health and longevity. More health clinics, maybe. Different kinds of gyms.
Yeah, maybe less focus on just treating sickness and more on enhancing wellness.
Perhaps.
So, as we stop for a moment on our 2050 walk, the contrast with 2025 is just incredible, isn't it?
Stark. Really stark.
Think about our commute back then, stuck in traffic, pumping fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Here, it's quiet, efficient, electric, maybe even a quick hop in a flying taxi if you can afford it.
Right. And our energy came from massive centralized power plants, often far away.
Now it's generated all around us, clean and practically free at the point of use or near enough.
And our food system, resource-intensive, globalized, lots of waste.
Here, it feels much more local, bioengineered, almost tailor-made. And technology, it was pervasive then, but here it feels truly integrated, hopefully more human-centered.
That's the hope. What really stands out, I think, is that fundamental change in our relationship with resources.
How so?
That move from extraction and scarcity,
All right.
digging things up, raising vast herds,
Mm-hmm.
to creation and relative abundance, driven by breakthroughs in areas like synthetic biology and renewable energy, building with photons, electrons, DNA, molecules.
A world built on photons, electrons, DNA, and molecules. Yeah, that phrase from the report really stuck with me. Less about taking, more about making.
Precisely.
Absolutely. So as our walk through this 2050 city kind of comes to an end, what's the biggest takeaway for you? For me, it's maybe this pervasive sense of efficiency and the reintegration of nature within a highly technological urban environment.
Yeah, that blend is striking.
Hopefully this experience, grounded in the insights from your sources, gives people listening a tangible glimpse into the profound transformations that could be just around the corner.
It certainly makes you think deeply about the implications for our current choices,
Mm-hmm.
right, and the kind of future we are actively shaping.
Mm-hmm.
The material we've explored strongly suggests that the decisions we make today are crucial in navigating these accelerating changes towards, hopefully, a positive outcome. A breakthrough, not a collapse.
Yeah, the stakes feel pretty high when you frame it like that.
Yeah.
What aspects of this 2050 vision did you find most surprising or thought-provoking?
Maybe the sheer speed of the food system transformation implied by things like precision fermentation and the potential for things like cultured exotic meats. That was unexpected.
Right. And what questions has it raised for you about the path we're currently on?
Well, mainly about ensuring equitable access to these technologies and managing the societal disruptions, like job losses in old industries. That's the big challenge alongside the tech development.
Definitely. This deep dive is really just the beginning, isn't it?
For sure.
We encourage everyone listening to maybe revisit those sources if they can, or explore even further into areas like precision agriculture, autonomous systems, or the future of urban design.
Because the future, as these sources so powerfully illustrate, isn't